Happy Saturday, everybody. Welcome to Venting with Us with your girl, Chris. Oh, yes. I wish we had like a theme music. We have to like come up with something maybe in the future. We're still a little Tamagotchi. We can't like rush the process. Well, as you see, we did it, guys. Look at the I'm so excited. We keep growing. We just keep growing and learning. Um, I hope everybody had an amazing week. Obviously, I have been excited to get to this episode. I feel like out of the 5 seasons, we've kind of touched, or I've kind of touched on, I don't know why I say we. I know what you guys are going to think. Why she keeps saying we? Where's the other person? Are they behind the pillow? Are they behind the couch? Um, but I've touched on a couple of documentaries. I've touched on little things. This one was like when it landed on my lap because of the fact I had just started getting into being a fan of Valeria's and watching her lives and everything. It was super important for me with this one to make sure that I had given not only her fans, but her family and her community a little bit of time before I touched it. I didn't want to be one of those to kind of like just jump into the story and not have facts. So not only was I ripping apart her Instagram, and looking for certain things that have not been mentioned, looking at articles, getting information um, from people that I know that live in those areas, and just getting a lot of information. So this episode was super important for me that I got it right for you guys. Not only that, but this was a 23-year-old famous influencer from Mexico who was unalived live on TikTok, and the way the case is being treated, it doesn't seem like there's a lot going on, but at the same token, this just happened on May 13th. So we're not really giving the authorities and the government enough time to actually get everything correct. So this may be 2 parts. I apologize. There's a lot to uncover, so we're just gonna jump right into it. So again, who was Valeria? Valeria was a 23-year-old famous Mexican influencer who was killed live on her TikTok on May 13th. The influencer was shot at her beauty lounge called Blossom, which is actually located in Sapon, which is actually a town in the central eastern state of Jalisco. Now, Jalisco is an area in Mexico which is wealthy. And when you look at it, and I've seen photos, it's a beautiful area, very wealthy area. But the problem is that this area is a well-known to be area where the feared cartel Jalisco CJNG, which means Cartel Jalisco Nueva Group, um, emerged from, which also has led to speculations that this is cartel related. Well, it may be related or may not be, or it may be related because of the location and who she was dating and everything. But like I said, it's one of those areas that seems very wealthy. It's very well known, but in reality, it's one of the most violent and has regular day-to-day shootings. Um, What is also known about this area, and the reason why I'm speaking about the area first, is because it's really important to know how this was all set up. Um, People don't even know that on that same day that Valeria was shot, or she was unalive, excuse me, I apologize. Um, a former congressman named Luis Armando Diaz was also unalive, just 2 kilos away, kilometer, I can't say it. I knew it was gonna happen. So more than half of the real estate and the commercial developments in that area are allegedly connected to laundering, trafficking money, according to the Department of Justice. Jalisco ranks number 6 among Mexico's 32 states, including Mexico City. In terms of homicides, there was 906 murders registered since the beginning of President Gloria term in October of 2024. It is one of Mexico's most affected areas out of all of the states by the cartels. Um, this was also an area where the cartel allegedly, there was a cartel training found back in March, and it was also there where 15,000 people have disappeared since 2018. This is according to the state of Jalisco. And as many as 90% of the crimes are never reported or investigated. And this is why there's allegedly, again, the state's attorney has been linked or connected to have ties with the cartels, which, of course, that's denied. But again, no one's really going to say, I'm a part of the cartels. And this is what the cartels do. They're recruiting people. They're using WhatsApp as a recruitment. They're using social media influencers now to kind of influence people to join their group. And this is happening a lot. So you hear it a lot. And those that are really deep diving into it are actually going out to Mexico to investigate these. So, but, let's dive into it. Valeria. So, Valeria was a Mexican model who began making her mark back in about 2021. Allegedly, I kind of feel like from looking at all her posts and seeing all the comments and everything, it's probably, I think the time frame is maybe a little bit off, but we're gonna go with that because that's what they're indicating in the news. But she began to make her mark back in 2021 when she won Mrs. Rostro, or Miss Face beauty pageant. According to Mexican media, she also began creating content on her social media, Instagram, for example, where she would share her makeup tips, she would share her personal care routines, she would talk about fashion, and she was just really an easy go fun person. She loved to show her travels and the things that she did. She even would eat on live, and I know a lot of people have been saying the tomato thing. A lot of people were, showing the tomato, and I've seen the videos, and I think that's so cute. It is a very, very Latin thing to eat tomatoes. Though her little seasoning thing, I have to admit, that put the cherry on the cake for me. That was so good. But I love that. I love people pouring out their love and showing that, look, we miss you. We're still gonna support you and make sure that that this case does get solved. I love it. and there has to be justice for Valeria. The problem is, part of it is we don't know the truth and we don't know her activities within the cartels. And if this is the case, then again, this is where it's going to lead up to why it's so similar to the Jenny Rivera story. So on Instagram, though, she had over 223,000 followers at the time of her unaliving. And she also had over 100,000 followers on TikTok. Though, again, like I've stated, we are not clear of what happened on the day that she was unalived. But Valeria was supposed to get 3 gifts that day. She wasn't feeling good as it was when she went to her beauty shop, Blossom. And you can tell in the video, like, she was getting very antsy. She wanted to leave. The first gift that she received was, and I made sure I got this right, guys, because I saw those comments. I love you guys. You guys are so like, no, that was not the case. That's how strong we feel about this. Like, we want this right. So the first gift that she got was her dragon fruit favorite drink from Starbucks. The second gift that she got was a plush pig. The pig smelled. This is the part of it where I think a lot of people are missing the facts and the synchronicity. Synchronicity, is that the word that I want to use? The meaning behind the pig. So in Mexico and in a lot of Spanish communities, the pig is known as, when someone is taken out on a hit, especially in Mexico, it is very known that that when a cartel is involved, that they leave a pig on the person's head or on their body, or, like, to let people know that this person was puerca. And I'm trying to say it in I'm like, puerca, or dirty, in a sense. Like, this person was no good. I believe, again, this is my opinion, that at the it's so hard to do the lead up. She was given the pig from Vivian. We all know that this was from Vivian. Vivian was her supposedly best friend at the time. And she was also, it's very important to know that Vivian's part in this, because Vivian held her at the store. She wanted to go. She did not, she didn't want to stay. She felt weird. But Vivian told her, she was like, you gotta wait. The courier's coming. They want to see your face. So she held Valeria in the store for the final gift. And the final gift was supposed to be a very, 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 very expensive gift, from what they said. I don't believe that there was a third gift. I think the third gift was what we saw. So during the time, though, Valeria says on her live, well, and I don't know if she had the plush pig at this point or if she said this before, because I can't remember. So I do apologize on that part, guys. But she said on her live, she was worried because her friend Erika, who was actually, and this is where it gets kind of a little bit confusing, because people say that she was her friend, but Vivian is saying that they were not friends. Which, again, I'm going to get into that part of it. It's a little bit crazy and it doesn't make sense. And when something doesn't make sense, guys, it just does not make sense. But Erica was in the store when the courier came. They asked if Valeria was there. And at that time, Valeria was not at the store. So that's when she had gone into the store and everything. And Erica had told her that she couldn't see the courier's face when he arrived. And Valeria says on the live, why didn't he just drop it off the gift? Were they trying to pick me up? Were they trying to kidnap me or what? In the chat, you can see people writing to her saying, if you're that worried, you should leave. So, but and again, she couldn't leave because Vivian was telling her, don't leave. You have to wait for the third gift. People want to see your face expression, you know? At this point, some time has already, I think it was already in a 2-hour gap, and she was already frustrated. You can see it. Now we fast forward over to when the courier comes, and you hear Valeria say, "Ya vienen," which means in English, they're coming. You can see that she goes onto her phone. She mutes the live, okay? And that part is really, really important for people to know, that one little detail, because there was so much speculation that supposedly Vivian had said that, she had heard the pew pew part of it. And people were like, well, that could not be because she muted the live. Then there was other accusations that nobody heard anybody screaming. So they thought it was fake. And again, it's really important, guys, that that the live was muted. So you were never going to hear anybody screaming. You were never going to see anything like that. So, and I think I've seen this video like multiple times. Because I really, it was just from the comments, it was so confusing on where she got shot. One, how did it happen? Where, like, because you could see her eyes in the video. You could see that she's looking, and at one point, and I caught it because I had to slow it down. You could see her face. You know, when that moment of like, something's not right, but you don't want to make that face because you don't want the other person who's whatever is happening in front of you, that you don't want them to know. So you kind of just like, she does this and it squints because she's looking, she's like, you can tell she's confused, but she's excited because she doesn't know, but you can tell like something's happening where she's kind of like, something's not right, kind of face expression. So the courier comes into the store. I'm sorry, let me go back a little bit. He asks her, Valeria? And she says yes. And that's when she mutes the live. The first bullet that shot hits her. She's wearing a protection necklace. This is the part where a lot of people think that the necklace is like meaningless. And for people that are religious and are very spiritual, the necklace that she was wearing was a protection necklace. It was to protect her from harm, which is kind of like my bracelets of what I wear, guys. Like the evil eye and all of that. So it was to protect her. The first bullet shoots, it hit the necklace. You can see the necklace in the video, but you have to slow it down. Pops off and it goes flying. I believe that when she went like that, it must have burned her because she went down and she was looking down here. I assumed that she was shot somewhere in her stomach and then shot in her head. She was only shot 3 times. And that is from the actual police report. So she was shot in the chest. That one saved her life. She would have lived. And if she would have moved and just, you know, well, if it was a cartel hit, to be honest with you, they would have gotten her either way. But the first shot hits her necklace, and her necklace goes flying. You see her put her head down, and she's like this. She's touching her stomach. She still has the pig in her hands. Okay, she's clutching the pig like this, basically. Um, then when she's like this, you see that she gets shot twice in the head, and the last bullet actually, when it hits her head, it splatters on the actual table, onto the cup, onto the bag, and there's photos of the Starbucks bag with the blood and everything. At this point, I want to say like maybe a minute or second. I don't know the time frame exactly. I can pinpoint it. Erica, you see Erica's face. She turns off the live. This is when everybody explodes, because why would you turn off the live? Now, according to what Vivian has explained, for Erica, um, she turned the live off to protect Valeria's last memories. She didn't want people to see her falling. She stumped over and she's still holding the pig. The other note for people that don't understand investigations and how they work, or crimes and bodies, when you get shot, it's not like in the movies where you're like, you get shot and it's kind of like you feel it, but you don't feel it, and you just in that moment. Like what happens is, and if you've ever had like a pet, and I can only kind of compare this to, I don't want to compare it to someone deceased, but within moments, their body starts to harden. So you can see it. She literally was shot, and she's holding the pig like this, and she scrunches over. I don't want to be too graphic, guys, because it was a horrible, horrible thing to see. I was not, unfortunately, on that live, thank God, but I have seen the video. The video's still on Instagram. They have not taken it down, which I think is very disrespectful. I really do think that they need to take it down. The authorities in Mexico say that there was at least two men on motorcycles who arrived at the salon, and the one entered the store and then he fled after that. Supposedly Erica went out and was yelling at the guy to give her the gift. This is the part where my 1 minute video might turn into a 2-part video, because it doesn't make sense. Now, this is where my theory is coming into this. One, Valeria had an issue with an employee before all of this. And she went on her live and she was explaining, that, she had to replace all of these things. And I actually have like, I think 2 or 3 theories on this, on why this happened to Valeria. But I do think, was Erica involved in it? Was Vivian involved in it? This is the part where I don't know. It's kind of opens, because here's the thing. Here's the 3 factors. Here's our 3 suspects. We have Valeria. Oh my God. We have Vivian, we have Erica, and then we have Valeria's boyfriends, who I'm going to get into right now. I'm sorry, guys. I keep flipping. I had a teleprompter. I was trying to be all fancy and cute, and I had a teleprompter, and the whole teleprompter like collapsed earlier. Of course, nothing could be easy on this show. But One, what doesn't make sense is that if these girls were not involved, and I don't know whether or not if what I've seen on X or AKA Twitter um are actual messages. And the only reason why I say this is because if these messages were real, then Vivian and Erica would be arrested at this point. There are these images out there that show the plot between Vivian and Erica of how everything was going to go down. Again, Vivian has not been arrested, and Erica lawyered up quick after this. Some people see it as suspicious. And others are kind of like, well, it would make sense because she was in the store. And this is the part where does not make sense to me. If the courier was going in there with the intent to harm one person, it's known in the cartel world, from those that I've spoken to, that are not connected to the cartels, but that are in like high official businesses, have stated that, when there's a hitch, they usually don't leave people behind. There's usually not a witness. So it's kind of odd that this guy came in with the intent to unalive Valeria, but leave Erica alive. It doesn't make sense to me. Now, this could have been the case where they said, okay, we're going to take a hit out on Valeria, but we're only going to take the hit out on her, leave Erica alone. I don't see that actually happening, but again, I'm not in that world. I don't know how that world works. So I can only not assume because we don't ever want to assume. But we also, it just doesn't make sense. And when something doesn't make sense, guys, and you don't have proof to back that up, that instance that doesn't make sense, you're trying to make it make sense, it doesn't make sense. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? So that's where this part is all confusing. Two, let's drop down to Vivian. Who was Vivian? Vivian was Valeria's friend. They had been friends for close to almost 10 years. She had known her since she was 15. So that's about 7, 8 years, right? And Vivian and Valeria were constantly fighting. So, and you can tell. And I went and I looked back on a lot of videos. When I say to you guys, a lot of videos on Vivian. And I can see the buildup. And for those and women, us women, we know when other women are jealous of us. And you can see it. Vivian changed her hair. She was wearing Valeria's clothes, which is okay because that's what best friends do, right? You wear each other's clothes, you share each other's makeup, you sleep at each other's house, you do all of that stuff. It wasn't up until Valeria had met somebody else in another town where Vivian started getting jealous because she wasn't spending time with Valeria. And regardless or what you want to say at the end of the day, or Vivian, really, not you guys. Vivian wants to say at the end of the day that she wasn't jealous and that, that of course, that they had issues. I really truly believe, and again, this is going based off of the videos that I've seen. I'm really good at reading people. It's been my number one quality in in everything that I've done in my business. But you can tell that she was very envious of Valeria. You can tell that Vivian wanted to live the life that Valeria lived. Vivian, though, was the one person who doesn't want to explain what she does. Okay. I do believe that she's probably tied in allegedly to the cartels, and that's probably why she doesn't want to say. But again, this is all an assumption. We don't really know. But what stood out in this whole entire story was the fact that, yes, okay, you have the relationship, the best friends fight. They don't agree on all things, and you make up, you break up, and you do all of that stuff, right? But here's the thing. When Valeria was having when her family did the funeral service for Valeria, Vivian was not allowed to go, that it was only immediate, and it was only family only. But what doesn't make sense, and here's the thing. So in the Latin community, and it doesn't matter if you're Mexican, you're Puerto Rican, you're Dominican, it doesn't matter. No matter what your culture is in the Latin world, if you're friends with someone that's more than 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, tú eres como familia, which means you're treated as family. So for Vivian to not have been invited to go to the funeral is a flag. I'm sorry, that's a flag. That tells me alone that the family probably had some type of issues with Vivian, or there's more that we don't know within that, in that group, with Vivian and the family. Or they also suspect that Vivian had something to do with this, and that's why they didn't want Vivian in it. We don't know. Again, there's still more coming out, and anything that stays in the dark always comes to light. So that just did not sit well with me. That really, it hit a thing with me. So that was another reasoning why I believe that Vivian had something to do with it. And it could have been that, the issue had grown. Okay, so there was a couple months, and I believe, I don't want to say 6 months, but there was a couple months in between where the girls were not getting along, and they were fighting. That it was to the point where Vivian would go on her live, and people from Vivian's live would go on to Valeria's live, and they would let Valeria know that Vivian was talking bad about her, you know. But then they made up. This is the part right there where I think that Vivian was so angry with her, and again, this is alleged, and she probably initiated all of this and plotted this, because it's very easy to go to the ex-boyfriend if you already have issues with the if you're friends with the ex-boyfriend of your best friend, and just be like, yeah, she's always getting money from all these guys, and this is the one thing that her ex hated about her, that she was getting all of these gifts from fans, and he didn't like that. He was very jealous. So I can see where that could have led up to that. Again, that's allegedly. This is my opinion. I watch way too much documentaries. The other thing that sparked the flag is, there's a video. It's a 3-part video of Valeria and Vivian. They're in, I don't know what part of the house. She's sitting at the table, and she's explaining to Vivian about a promise. And when I tell you guys, I have not seen anybody talk about the promise. And the promise is very, very, very important in this whole case because the promise reminds me of Jenny Rivera. But she was mentioning to Vivian that when she was doing her beauty pageants, all she wanted was this life, and she spoke to someone, and they made her dreams come true very quickly. She did not know how quick it was going to be, but that this person promised her something, and she had to give up her crown in order for this promise to be fulfilled. And you can hear Vivian in the video specifically say, "Oh, so no tienes la corona," which means so you don't have your crown. And she says, "No, I don't have the crown anymore." And then what happens is, can't tell you guys, I told you there was going to be a part 2. All right, guys, I'll see you next week. I love you guys. Stay tuned for part 2. Bye.